Okay. Okay, good morning. Honored to be part of this process. You know, I was part of the organizing planning committee when the initial annual conference was being planned. And it's about the same time we started getting wind of the COVID possibilities. And one idea that was presented then, that why not do the annual conference as a virtual conference? And we started mapping it out as what could be done, because we now have the technology. But then that was apparently the time to get it going was not sufficient. Yeah? But at least now with this conference today, I am really proud that the JTA decided to go ahead and to make something happen, because we really need this. Huh? My theme, I'm asking a question: will teachers be ready to cope with Corona? Question. Hopefully at the end we can answer the process, and we will come away with some decisions in terms of what is indeed possible, and hopefully it is indeed doable. Let me just get through them. Of course, we can't not salute our teachers, because within the context of Teachers' Day, very necessary. Many of our achieving the results that we have in life because a teacher saw more in us than we saw in ourselves. And I singled out two, online, Isaac Henry. A lot of people know that name and realize that he was one that moved them, and Douglas Forrest. But that's what teachers do. Question, I wonder how to safely get back to school after coronavirus closure, because that's the next step in this process. What do we know about that? Guess what, folks? There's no plan. We've never been here before. We make it up. Huh? We call something online teaching. No, it's not really online teaching. It's emergency response teaching. If you see this morning, what it took us just to get this going, all the little things that have to be done, we're learning from scratch. So yes, online teaching is something that we hope to get towards. Question, are you ready for this? This here's a picture, a video from Lebanon. When children came back to school, notice the people in hazmat suits awaiting them, checking the temperature. And as they get in, each child is sanitized and their book bag sanitized. Have you designated your sanitizing officers as yet? That's what it's about, folks. Not sure. Now, again, next question. Most classes in Jamaican schools are already crowded, or should we say overcrowded? Huh? Yeah. Social distancing is going to be a part of our life for the next 18 to 24 months. Those are the best estimates. Now, how are we going to cope with the concept of social distancing? Even here today, we had to limit the number of people we have in the auditorium. On the platform, we skip out each chair. So we're going to skip out each desk. Huh? Again, are you planning for that? Has that been thought about? Huh? What about the concept of this critical element of child development that all teachers are well aware of? Development is asynchronous. What do we mean by that? The individual child does not develop at the same rate, at the same pace. Different aspects of the child's development come at different paces. So the child may be way ahead in terms of academic verbal skill, but emotional and social way behind. Now multiply that across the number of children in your classroom, and then multiply that by the number of children who over the last 2 months and over the next 2 months are going to fall behind. You understand the level of asynchronicity you'll be coping with? The average teacher has to deal with roughly 3 grades in a class at a time. You're teaching grade 7. You're going to have some of the children at grade 8 and some at 6. But now you're going to have at least a 5-grade spread in each class. Ready for that? Interesting times ahead. My analysis over the years have led me to understand that there are 4 pillars for education when you look at children's academic outcome. At the top, the single most important factor, parents' attitude and behavior. Parents' attitude and behavior. Then now, on that, teachers' ability and competence can map into it. Now, how are we doing in Jamaica with parents' attitude and behavior? I refer to it as a goat kid mentality. A lot of parents let go them children in the morning, like you let go your goat, and hopes the goat can find something to eat and come home safe. But guess what? We had a time in Jamaica that many people who are proud professionals now never know say mama and papa couldn't read. But mama and papa do what? Check the homework every night. No, that's not right. Do it over. That's not right. A lot of parents now pay no mind in terms of what the child is doing. Now, can you imagine what's been happening over the last 2 months when parents have become the primary homeroom teachers? The data is telling us that a lot of children, as a result of this, are way behind. Let me put a plug in for mothers. Mothers, you've been carrying an extra double load because the data on what's happening at home with the schooling, 35% of the children is the mother. Only 7% of fathers are involved in this, which is the same level as the helper. 7% is helpers doing the work. But the mother who have her work to do at home, she has more housework to do, but she's also now head teacher, dean of discipline. What else? Oh, she run the commissary. She's just the kitchen and the canteen. She's still doing that, huh? So that's what. Now, the third component, the educational facilities. Educational facilities can educate children, but with the facilities, you can do a whole lot. And then the bottom, we have the educational policies and financing, right? You can have all the educational policies in the world, but you don't have the teachers with the competence and the ability, not now go on. You can have all the educational facilities and you don't have parents with the attitude and behaviors. Parents make good choices for their children, irrespective of the context. 191 countries had shut down their primary and secondary school system, and they shifted to some sort of remote learning. I mean, we did the same in Jamaica, but how successful were we? What has happened during that time? Schools provide not just learning, but also probably the most critical social support for children. And it's an important part of child care in a funny way. Yes, there are some schools which are really considered daycare centers because the parents just let them go there and, but without a functioning school system, the parents can't get no work done. The average parent can't, so the two have to work together. There are some risks involved in where we're heading, folks. And remember, everybody make it up. Nobody been there before and said, well, this is how it works, this is how it works. Anybody tell us to run them. Reopening of schools carries some public health risk, serious public health risk. Parents and teachers are understandably wary. And if they're not afraid, they should be afraid. They should be very afraid because we're not hearing talk about this. Leaders around the world are grappling with 3 important questions as we want to safely get back in the classroom. 1, when should school actually reopen? For which segment of students and teachers, if not everyone, should you start with? 3, what about the health and safety measures that must be in place for the whole society? Now, the post-pandemic capabilities for schools vary. Besides the safely reopening of schools, we have to talk about how about the re-enrolling of students? How are we going to manage that? How are we going to help the students to recover the lost learning which has taken place? New partnership may help, but we have some serious capabilities to look into. What are the priorities now in terms of coronavirus? Because this is not a normal time. Re-enrollment. What do we mean by re-enrollment? Students reopen, but students it's not like students are returning from summer holiday. This is a whole other thing. For instance, there are parental concerns ongoing about the health risk. What about the student leakage in terms of some students who were struggling financially over this time and not even ready to come back and won't even bother come back? What about the students who now are so far behind? They have lost interest in school. They were on the borderline, but now they're gone. Are you ready for the remediation? Many students who return may need significant time and work to catch up. We've heard about a 20-day period given for doing assessment. There's a chance we're going to lose a year in terms of, if we talked about the gap between students, we're not seeing nothing yet. This thing about remote learning, folks, it was a remote concept. Very remote concept. There are some students who did very well because of what? Parents' attitude and behavior. I know of one parent who contacted me for all kind of other things to augment. I've known a couple of parents who have called me and said, no, doc, I feel we're not about to send children back to school, you know. Because what my 3 children were able to do with myself and my husband and the resources that we put together, we figured we could keep this going. The number of parents have been who are really into it. What about the remediation process? Teachers are ready for this? It is estimated that the number of students who lacked internet access, we've heard a low figure of 31,000, but I've heard figures closer to 200,000. I have reasons to believe it's closer to the top end, if not more. Again, what about the students who did not get any parental support? Their parents who have asked them, how are your kids doing? Well, I mean, I really know. They say, I'm not getting no work, you know. Them say, we can't find. I heard a very interesting concept yesterday that following the minister's announcement of how the students will be selected for the next grade, a lot of parents and their students automatically ended their school yesterday. And I mean, clearly unintended consequences. Parents announced, me not have no more money for buy credit. School done. Now, you understand that the gap, school done as of day before yesterday. Huh? There's going to be some serious help required in remediation. What about the resurgence? Huh? Resurgence of the virus. Even though children are the least impacted, but they're a very important vehicle for the transmission. I think we've established that social distancing will be next to impossible in school. And we know that the virus can be transmitted even when there are no symptoms. So have you designated your hazmat suit teacher who's in charge of the disinfection? Have you ordered your digital thermometers as yet? Oh, they're coming from China. All right, okay. All right. There are 5 hours for getting back to school. And by the way, is that reading and writing? It's a different set of hours now. The first is to resolve. We have to focus on the immediate health threat posed to students and teachers and staff and community and parents. Once these students coming from different contexts come together, the possibility of the viral spread, not just community, but nationwide, because you take it back home. One child, entire school, many homes. What about the resilience? That's the other R. There's some challenges of setting up remote learning for all students, especially the vulnerable students, because the remote learning concept is going with us for quite some time. Because one way to deal with the issue of the limited social distancing, schools may have to decide, we usually have a 2-shift system. Now we're going to have probably a 4-shift system now, because half of the children in the classroom, while the half at home, and the teacher is teaching one group in front of you, but the other half is at home. Huh? You ready for that, teachers? Technology in place? What about the return? How, once the children return, where is the plan for the remediation of the lost learning which has taken place? And this remediation, we're going to be losing over the next school year. What's the plan for that? You're going to have a serious gap in the development of these children. How about the reimagination? How about, have you started to reimagine what the new normal could look like? A whole nother type of educational system. And there's a couple of people raising their hands, but we're going to take questions at the end, all right? So we're not going to, you know, this is like church, you know, when the pastor done, then they say any question. What about the reform? Have we reconsidered educational priorities in light of the lessons learned? Here's where the JTA now has to really flex itself, because the JTA has to push back against the policies, or should I say lack of policies, because you are on the front line, literally and figuratively. So any reform has to come from the bottom up. Now that the immediate rush for closing school is over, we have to start to focus on this other priority now. There are 4 priorities that jump up at us. The first, and I've not heard any discussion at all about this, how do we maintain the health and safety of the students and the staff and the community? The health and safety. Because open back up everything, get these children in. Number 1, how do we maximize student learning given the context in which it's taking place? What kind of support we have in place for these teachers and staff? Because it's almost like teachers and staff are now in a battleground state. We talk about what we do when we go into the market or in a public place, the need for constant social distancing. But can you imagine, there's a teacher in a classroom, Miss, and you run up to Miss and want to tell Miss something, and Miss Johnny troubling me. If teachers are spending, many teachers spend up to 60% of their time dealing with discipline issues. What percent of their time won't deal with social distancing? No, step back from him. No, put on back your mask. Put on back your mask. What about the operational and the financial basis on which we do this thing? Has anybody started calculating the kind of funding required? Folks, the health and safety is serious. Low-income students oftentimes depend on school for their basic nutrition. Is when them get school, them get something to eat. A friend of mine who's now a very proud professional, she told me that when she went to high school, she joined every sports team. Why? Her parents never have no money. So in a sports team, you get free lunch. So netball season, she netball. Track season, so she get free lunch right through the year. So now there are students who literally, that's why they come to school. For many, home may not be the best place where they're coming to school with problems. What about the combination of problems now where teachers who are in the category of those with prevailing conditions? Teachers who literally stand the most to be impacted and infected by this in the classroom. I've heard no talk about the students' mental health. You understand the stresses that the students have been going through. Forget about the learning deficiencies, but the stresses of the being locked up, the limited things that you can do and cannot do, all the places that you want to go. You can't go visit grandma. If you go there, you can't hug up grandma. For the high-risk students, there need to be continued evaluation and monitoring and outreach program. I've heard no talk about the mental health aspect for these children. The curve will eventually flatten. The government and the school system will have to work things out to where do we go to not get it back up. But What about the students who are living with elderly or immune compromised families? What's the plan for that? Because these students are going back and forth. You know, again, I've been involved in education all my professional life. My first post in Jamaica was research fellow in child development at the UWI, where I was responsible for the entire Caribbean in terms of early childhood education. And I've done studies in about 5 different Caribbean territories looking at the impact of what happens in school. And if you notice, once children start school from preschool, the amount of cold them come home with. Remember those days? Every day a different cold. And some parents get very upset, but I have to tell the parents, no, you're building the child's immune system. Lock up the child in your house, no, they're not getting a cold, but their immune system will not develop. Now, it's that same process now. Coming to school, have we worked that out? Do we have something in place? Now, folks, there's a picture on the screen shortly about what remote learning ideally looks like. You know when the school looks up? I spoke to my daughter who teaches in New York. My daughter teaches in a school where the school fee is 50,000 US a year. All right? And a car on that. Should have nothing like that. Can you imagine you teachers could stand up in a room and you're looking at a bank of monitors where you look at all the students, you can look into their eyes and you see their emotions and so on. And you can walk around the classroom and, don't feel no way. Nobody not have this, all right? Right? We're gonna need some serious rethinking if we're serious about remote learning. Just doing something on Zoom or something on WhatsApp and saying remote learning is a lot more than that. Last week I did a workshop across 5 different countries. What I had to do to break things up, you know, every 40 minutes or 30 minutes, give them 10 minutes away from the screen. Because the intensity, I was on for about 5 hours all total. By the end of the 5 hours, me sweat like I just don't do a half marathon. Because the energy required to hold people's attention in a virtual space is not the same thing as in the classroom. Especially when you don't have systems like these. I just put this here to burn your belly, make you wish, boy, can you imagine if we had a system like this in my classroom? Technology. Some people are struggling to deliver what they have. Some people will never catch up. We're going to have to find synchronous and asynchronous development working together at the same time. It's a brand new world we're heading into. Access device and internet connectivity is uneven. To get this conference on the board, immediately we saw some deficiencies. Every now and then we see something pop up, the internet is unstable. We were able to immediately make a call and we could get Zoom to expand the platform, but we couldn't, so we actually went from, we now have 282 people on. So you realize that quick intervention expanded the Zoom platform. I'm not sure how many we have on Facebook Live, but to get the internet throughput required. We have heard some very interesting things coming out with Ready TV, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're gonna have to incorporate other things, television, cell phone, packets of information delivered, printed and sent home. So don't think we're not even close to figuring it out. Some students will need a lot more work. Other students, because their parents can facilitate, they'll be way ahead. What about the support for the parents who are, they themselves who are challenged with this? There's some parents who don't have a clue in terms of what is required of them in this digital space. Others have lost the struggle completely. Is there a program to incorporate them? The interventions we have in terms of the students with special needs, I've not heard anything about those students, the various disabling conditions. How are we going to work with those students? They are a significant part of the population. One suggestion is to have a parent-led tech team working in conjunction with your PTA, put together a tech team to directly monitor and involve the parents in this process. It must be done. We heard about what is being done for the assessment and the grades. It's a nice little catch, it should be, attempt, but we're doing the best we can. Are you ready for when the parents who didn't get their child into the school of choice? Yeah? And them said, no, well, my student in fourth form, them didn't do as well because they know they were planning to mash it up this year and all of that. We have seen the first unintended consequence. Many sixth grades done school already. How are we going to deal with the grading? We're going to have to go to a dual system. Half of the students in front of you, half of them still online. How are you going to deal with the grading? We're going to have to experiment with options and see what works. Because the grading, what about graduation requirement? Are we still on time? My cousin's daughter in Florida graduated last week. And the graduation was very interesting. She was at home in her living room in her gown. And the graduation was on YouTube. And then when the music, she could stand and she walked towards the camera, right? That was it. Jamaica graduation is pomp and ceremony. Everybody who never spent a penny from books come for graduation. Are we prepared for that? How about adjusting the school calendar? Have we started working with that? Did we extend summer school for this year so you can get some practice in terms of what you're going to need to do? Is it suggesting that the 2021 school year, should we start it earlier? Because again, we have so much more. What about teachers' contracts? A lot of things that we're asking teachers to do now was not in the contract over the last, whatever the age of JTA, those things were not in the contract. Which teachers going to be designated as a disinfection? Yeah. Dean of sanitizer. Who's going to offer that to make sure? Huh? Oh, goodness, thank you. No, this is history. We have 161 on Facebook. We're now up to 300 on Zoom. I mean, folks, there are people outside of Jamaica who are on to. I saw some of the place where people are logging in from. Chances are we will not go back to face-to-face. Huh? What about the parent involvement? Have you noticed that the curvilinear, well, not curvilinear, the inverse function of parents' attendance of PTA and grade? At 7th grade, attendance to PTA is what? 90%? By the time you get to 9th grade, by the time you get to 4th, inverse proportion, but they get to graduation, 120%. Right? We're going to have to find a way, because unless we get the parents in as part of this process, it is doomed. What was student motivation? By and large, the cell phone and the TV and the computer were largely fun instruments for students. I prophesied 10 years ago. I started telling teachers that, listen, you see all the energy you're telling students, put away the phone, put away the phone, put away the phone. The average cell phone has more capacity than the computer used to put a man on the moon. Remember that. 10 years ago, I was telling teachers that we're going to get to the point where you tell students, max time, take out your phones, and the test will be right on their screen. They answer the test right on their screen. By the time they're finished, the results are on the whiteboard. Their grades are right back on their screen, and immediately an email sent to them at the same time. It's here now. Now, how are we going to deal with those things, folks? These are not ordinary times. Needy students will have some significant learning loss. And if we don't find a way to keep them on track towards graduation and employment, dog, nyam with supper and with breakfast next morning. Again, support for the teachers and staff. Teachers have their own problems. Teachers have to deal with it, what is happening at school and what is happening at home, and their own health. Are we prepared to facilitate that? Some schools going to need a lot more support than others. In the same way schools are uneven in terms of physical capabilities and resources, preparation for what is ahead, we are way behind schedule in getting this done because people have not even thought through it. Students are not the only vulnerable population. Everybody in the school, the janitor, the food service people, many of those are people live from paycheck to paycheck. Anybody checking on them? How are they coping? We have to find a way to answer all of these problems. There's some things that schools can start doing now. What areas can we save money on? Should schools now directly try to negotiate individual with utilities? See if we can get something because your utility bill is going to go up. Can we ask vendors for discounts? Can we do a collaboration between public and private to bring them in? Because listen, the public sector, the private sector depends on the output of the school system. If the schools are not delivering, the nation is in trouble. The good thing about it, people, crisis means that new opportunities will emerge. If the school system takes on this challenge and move towards the next normal, some serious innovation can take place. Ready? The altar call. After any service, you must have an altar call that who ready to step forward, all right? We're talking about mask. But, you know, when you go on a flight, you are admonished to do what? Put on your mask first before you can help anybody else. Teachers, how you doing? Your mask on? Have you sought out your problems? Have you figured out how you're gonna find a way through all of this so you can strengthen? All teachers are now become guidance counselor because the amount of things you have to do to help the students and their parents go through this. You put on your mask? I have conceptualized a workshop issue that we need teachers to be able to answer all of these questions, work through these things. So whether we're going to use an online capability before the opening of school, we want to get teachers in a country where they can answer, how has your life changed? How has business and work changed? What is gone forever? And I'll correct Dr. Chin, this is now the 5th industrial revolution. At the top of the pile now, anybody who can work anywhere from anywhere, gone clear. No, we'll pass AI because AI was the 4th. And the notion that the robots going to take over, you know, that's a lie. Because if the robots could have taken over, we wouldn't have to lock down the economy all over the world. You see, the robots can't do it. Because interestingly, the converse between, the contrast is that, technical issue, continue? Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if the robots could have taken over, we wouldn't have to shut down economies. But there's an inverse relationship, folks, in that things that robots are good at, people are not good at it. Anything that can be systematized and routinized, that robots are good at that. But anything that requires innovation and new thinking, then the robots can't do that. But we need persons who can really think outside the box though. So the output of the school is going to be very different. What should the educational leaders be now doing? Not just giving us press releases and telling us fantasy. You cannot, listen, they say you can fool some of the people some of the time, but guess what? It will come back and bite you. I heard the JTA, the Jamaica Tourism, Jamaica Hotel, GHTA president, saying that he wants the minister to announce when they're going to reopen the hotel. I had to respond to him and say, boss, it's not the minister made that decision, it's the virus made that decision. It's the virus decision that the data decides. All right? What about your fears and your stresses if teachers don't understand? How can you lead with empathy while minding the bottom line? As a teacher, you know, you have to make sure you get to, you want to get the grade, you want to get the lesson plan done. But what about your own fears? Because those are issues that you have to contend with. You have to make sure that you work through your hours by putting on your mask first. Any changes in this? Why I'm not moving ahead? Oh, okay. I think we're good. What are the new skills and competencies needed for the new work order? All of a sudden, all of you teachers now have to find a way now to tie. There was a time when children must do something that ends in ER. You must learn teacher, lawyer, doctor. Huh? But now we're going way past that. And we now have a better understanding of what essential services are. A lot of people who we were dissing, they are part of essential service. What industries and jobs are going to be negatively affected? What would you do differently if this was day one? And you have to answer this honestly. If this was day one of your career choice, would you become a teacher? You don't have to answer now, but at least answer in your own heart and realize, can you reimagine the future of education? Can you prepare to respond and position yourself for success? How do you create a roadmap for the future in the new normal? Every teacher has to go through and answer these questions for themselves so that when you get before the children and the parents, you can lead them. In closing, we will draw on Luke 6:39-40. He also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. Now, teachers, another parable says, woe be unto the shepherd who lead my sheep astray. The judgment is on you, teachers. The question, will teachers be ready to cope with Corona? You have to answer, first of all, in your heart. Answer in your heart and then do what is required because the future of this nation depends on you. Thank you very much.